Welcome to Intro to 3D Art Development. So right now we're going to be working in less of a 2D zone and more on what a lot of modern games have shifted to, which is 3D. So what exactly is 3D art? I chose some of my favorite 3D artists. That is one of my favorites. He's on TikTok and amazing. He does a lot of clay shaders. It's really cool. But what exactly is 3D art? It basically goes from a 2D plane, but it expands it in the Z direction, and just anything that has 3 dimensions of it. So that could even include like real life sculpture. Paintings have even done that with mixed media. But most importantly, game art is really important in terms of 3D modeling and a lot of digital assets. So it really just combines art and technology to create things for your game, like objects, the main characters, side characters, and the environment itself. It's just really fun. So we're going to delve into it. So I'll start off with, these are the 5 main 3D art styles. So we have realism, which is best symbolized. I picked each of them, but we have Red Dead Redemption, which is my favorite. Fantasy realism, low poly, hand painted, which is Hades. If you haven't played it, please do. It's awesome. But I think it's the best explanation of a hand-painted 3D style, which is so rare in the industry these days. Other than that, we also have cartoon. Fortnite, our favorite. Now we have, how do you really create 3D art? So in order to do things like 3D modeling, we here in the club, we mainly use Blender because it's free, and that's awesome, and it's open source. And it just has so many tools to help you get into it, but also really just like, it has so many things that you can use it for the capabilities of expensive things like Maya or ZBrush. So the more expensive ones that are more industry standard in actual video game development is Maya, 3ds Max, and ZBrush. ZBrush is used for mainly sculpting like this. It's pretty tricky, but it's nice whenever you get the hang of it. And then you have your main standards, which is Maya and 3ds Max. And then whenever you actually get your model like this and you want to texture paint it, the main thing for that is Adobe Substance Suite, so that can be Substance Painter. There's also Designer. These you can actually get free as a student, so I would sign up for those. They're really great. Hopefully I can trick them for a couple more years because I don't want to pay for it. But with that, you can also do things in Engine as well for materials. You can do this in Blender, which has a node system, as well as Unreal Material nodes. Very helpful in doing a lot of the stuff you can do in there, just without hand painting. But yeah, so looking more into the actual field of game development, a lot of 3D artists' job titles would be like things like character artists. That's a big one for, and then you have things like the environment artists. Those make a lot of the like objects in the game, as well as just the landscapes, putting everything together. Technical artists work a lot with 3D. This can be anything from like rendering, shaders, rigging, animation, stuff like that, which leads into a more specific, in a larger game studio, they would have a specific animator / rigging artist. And there's a lot more, but I know there's 3D VFX, which is really cool. But yeah, so usually the stages of 3D, if you're only doing just like a static model, you're going to want to start with concept art if you want to. If you want to just dive headfirst into it, you can. And then you'll go ahead and you'll model it out, you'll texture it, and you'll get it shaded. So texturing can be like just the base of red and everything like that. And shading means if you want something to be like metallic, you would tell it that in that stage. Like, I want this thing to be metallic, I want this thing to be very shiny, something like that. And then if you want it to be an animated character or object, that's whenever you would go into weight painting, rigging, and animation. And then afterwards, this can be done in Engine, but if you're just doing like a static shot, or if you're doing it for film or anything like that, that's whenever you'll want to do lighting and rendering. But usually it's done in real time in Engine if you're doing games. But yeah, now we're gonna go into some fun follow along. If you have, oh yeah. I don't know if you guys want to make the donut, we can, but yeah. So So we're going to go ahead and do an intro to Blender. If you don't have it on your computer, free to install it. Like I said, it's free and open source, and it's awesome. But if not, you can just watch along. That's also okay. I'll be doing stuff here, show you how to basically use it, and then we'll maybe create an object or two that we see in real life. One of the best exercises is to grab something you can actually hold and then model that. And yeah, we'll do that, and then at the end, I'll give you guys some homework. It's okay, it's fun homework because you love being here. Thank you. It's not homework you actually have to do, it's just like if you would like to practice and have fun, there is some fun homework.
Can I call it home fun instead?
Yes, home fun. Ignore homework. I'm just going to show this slide preemptively. So after this, I was going to give a homework assignment like we've done in the past. Mitchell. And we're going to, my thought is you can go ahead and go to this random object prompt generator and generate a prompt. You don't have to do the first one you get. You can click it a million times till you find one you like. And challenge yourself by trying to make an item based on that prompt. Send it in the Discord and tell us what you got as your prompt, and we'll all be very proud of you. And
I will. Do you promise?
I will. I'm gonna be so proud of you.
Okay.
I'm gonna send so many yippee gifts. It's gonna be crazy.
I'm Asian. I need the academic.
Oh no. But yeah. So now we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna scroll through all my apps. Thankfully, it was right at the front. But now we're gonna go ahead and go into. You can follow along, but I'm gonna go ahead and go into some of like the basic things you can do in Blender. So yeah, whenever you open Blender, you're gonna have this basic scene. It's gonna have a cube, a camera, and a light. All very fun stuff. I usually immediately delete all these. You don't have to, especially if you're trying to render. You can keep the camera and light. I always just delete the cube though, because I don't need it. I don't want it. If you do want the cube, you can keep it. So what we're gonna go ahead and do, let me full screen this so it's more helpful. But yeah, so we can go ahead and get started. So this is your Blender layout. Down here you have a little panel. That's for animation stuff, so we can just ignore it for now because that's complex stuff. Over here is your hierarchy of items. This is the default layout, so if you're worried about like why does mine look different, it shouldn't look different. But if it does, hopefully I can help you figure it out if you get confused. Over here is a big tab area, which will contain things like rendering options, different scene options, and whenever you click on something, it'll pop up with a lot more stuff. And that's usually this orange rectangle is going to be your transform options. So that's like your location, your rotation, your scale, all that fun stuff. And then you'll get more complex fun things. But yeah, so we can go get started. So I usually add I'm gonna not using I will not be using a whole lot of shortcuts. There we go. Mainly because I'm bad at them. But that's helpful because if you don't know them either, that's great. The one shortcut I do know is Shift A. So Shift A is going to bring up this panel, and this is how you can go ahead and add an object. You can also do it some other ways, such as like the Add button up top, but I prefer Shift A just because it's really fast. And this is where you can find all the default objects that you can add to your scene. So you can get a plane, cube, circle, a bunch of different other fun stuff. So there's also, if you were to do any plugins or add-ons, you can also get more of these. I don't think I have the ones I like on here, but that's fine. But there's also more complex things that you can get into in separate tutorials, such as like curves. Meta balls are really fun. Grease pencil is fun if you're doing just 2D art on top of it. It's really cool. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. We will just pull up a cube like we deleted. He's back now. I wanted to show you how to add it, Gloria. I don't need the sass. No. But yeah, so you can rotate around. Hi. Are you good? So you can rotate around. Usually if you're using a mouse, you can hold down on the scroll wheel and that's how you rotate around. That's at least how it is on my machine. Sometimes controls are different. And then usually if you left click, that'll pop up with this panel instead of if you drag it around, it's not going to do anything. You usually have to click and hold on the scroll wheel. But yeah, so that's how you'll rotate around. You can zoom in and out. I think it's left. Yeah, you can left shift and hold down on the scroll wheel to actually move your camera and pan it around. But yeah, so we have our cube. So there's a couple things we can do. We can go ahead and move it by hitting this over here. And we can move it in any of these directions, which is really nice because if you just hit the arrow, it's only going to move it in the direction that the arrow is going. If you hit it on one of these planes, it's going to move it in, because it's color coded, so it'll move it in the direction, in both of the directions that red is not. So basically it'll do everything but red. And then if you hit the center circle, it'll move it in all directions. And it's kind of just based off of your view of field. But yeah, just hit Control Z. The next thing we have is rotate, which is basically the same way. You can rotate it by clicking and dragging out on these axes right there. And then you have scale, which is the same as the others. And that's about it for the simple things. So you can extend it as you want. And all of these you can also find in this transform. So that the location changed as well as the scale changed to what it currently is. And now, this is where you'll actually start being able to 3D model. You can go ahead and hit Tab, which will bring you into edit mode. So edit mode is where you're doing a lot of the changing in terms of your faces and polygons. So there's 3 different parts of doing 3D modeling in terms of like this edit mode and also just in general. You have your 3D object is made up of 3 things. You have your faces, so that would be each of these polygons you see connected by edges. So you can select these edges. And then you have the vertexes, and that's just all the points that control everything. And that's the 3 different parts that make up the model. So if you ever see something that's like a 3D model to text, you'll actually see all of that written out as like where their location is, the location of the vertices, which vertices connect to make an edge, and which like edges connect to make the face. So it's actually really cool to look at those texts, but they're not fun if you're trying to find something forever. But yeah, so there's a lot of different tools that you can do in here. So we have our regular move, rotate, and scale, except now if we put it on like face mode from up here, we can click on a certain face and move it around separate to the object. We don't have to worry about it as a whole because we're just moving what we have selected. We can even select multiple parts of it and move those around, not having to worry about everything. There we go. And so all of those will work the same, except you can now select things individually and have control over them. But there's also now very fun extra features you get in edit mode. So you can you can do extrude. So extrude is basically going to extend whatever face you have selected, and you can just drag it out. And as you can see, it just created a new like area on top of it. It didn't drag it up, it just it created a new thing entirely. So there's going to be a new vertex here and a vertex here. And then there's edges connecting alongside. So now if I were to, let's say, scale it this way, it wouldn't care about the lower edge because I don't have it selected anymore. And it's new. So extrude is super helpful. One of the basic functions that you can use to really just extend your model out. And then we have another thing called inset. So inset is whenever you have a face, and you can go ahead and drag it in. And this just basically takes all the vertices that make up the face and creates new edges and vertices inside of it. And from there, if I hit E and extruded it, I could then do that. It's a lot simpler than extruding it and then scaling it and doing all this other junk, but instead, you can just do this. And now, actually, I'm going to keep that because it'll help me show. And all these things you can also do with edges and vertices. It's just these functions I've showed so far don't work super with them. But yeah. Dang, I forgot. So I can go ahead and select all of these edges. The next thing we're going to talk about is the bevel function. So the bevel function, if I select a couple of edges, or heck, even a face, it'll basically create this like buffer. So it creates an average to it. So it's like a slide. It makes it a lot smoother. I think a good example would be to do it on here. So if I do that, oh, actually, let me, hold on. Figure out how to do it. Yeah. So in order to make the inset square, you want to go ahead and select whichever face you want to do. Select inset, which I think is also I. Forgot if that's insert keyframe. Oh, okay. Cool. And you can just drag it out. I don't know why it's not liking it here, but oh, what did I do? Did I mess it up? I probably did. Oh, there we go. Yeah. And then it'll show up with this yellow dot, and you can just drag it inwards.
And the yellow circle.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, yellow circle, you hold that, and you drag it into, like, the face, and it'll create this inner rectangle. But yeah, so bevel basically does as, like, the icon shows. It kind of creates an angle as if you chipped off the edges, and you made it a bit smoother. The next thing is a loop cut. So a loop cut will take all of the connecting things you have, and it'll basically create like a circle. If a circle was around it and it constricted onto the object, that would be a loop cut. And I can click this, and now I just have an edge that if I was like, oh, yes, I want this to have more polygons so I can morph it, now I would be able to have a lot more polygons on it because I had loop cut on. And then I can just mess with it more. Put that up or something. Empire State Building. It's beautiful. But yeah, other ones, I wouldn't suggest using knife too much, just because it only goes based off of this perspective, but it does the same thing as the loop cut. So where you can click it, you can drag it, and it's going to cut whatever it saw if you hit enter. If you click one point, you drag it to another, and you hit enter, it's going to create an edge and a bunch of vertices for that, and new faces for it. I think that's a good intro to the basic functions of everything. Some other things you can do. Oh. Oh, you can actually increase the undo stack in preferences. Yeah, it's awesome. You can increase it to a bunch. What? Yeah, so if you're having trouble where you want to undo things, but it's like, you can't undo anymore, buddy. We don't have anything left for you. You can actually go to preferences and set it to something way higher. Because I think the default is like 30.
That's actually atrocious.
Yeah, I go ahead and usually set that to 500. So just to make it way better, because I make a lot of mistakes, especially if you're sculpting in here, because you can sculpt in Blender, which is why it's so awesome. You can sculpt in it, and if I mess up something like at the very beginning and I want to go back, I don't want to have 20 chances to go back on each little brush stroke I did, because that is itself atrocious. But yeah, so some other basic stuff we can do here. We can go ahead and shade smooth. This is just your rendering. So it'll basically take all these edges. This is mainly what bevel's for. If you really want to make like a good highlighted crisp edge, and you want it shaded smooth, you do not want to have just an actual like angled edge. No, you want that bad boy a little rounded out, and that's what bevel's for. So that's why it looks a little bit smoother on the shading here, because we beveled it. So that's one thing you can do. You can also hit it to shade flat again. Some other things. This is another big part of Blender and just modeling in general, is you can add modifiers. So modifiers is a big list of things you can do with your object. It goes from you being able to do Boolean, so you have two objects. You want an object where they intersect. You only want that part. Or you just want to use it, so it's like you want to combine these two objects. You can use Boolean for that. Another thing is you can use mirror, which is lovely, especially if you're trying to do something very symmetrical. And you can't just do that with a bunch of vertices that you'll have to manually input, just inverting the negatives. There's also one of the biggest things is subdivision surface. I use that a lot. It'll basically make a hat. Perfect. A hat. So basically what you can do is you can turn on subdivision surface, and it's going to take all of your polygons and just make it more. And this will not only like smooth everything out, it does add a lot of polygons. So if I were to add more, it would increase the amount it would subdivide by. Yeah, you want to do 100 and watch my MacBook Air break? That sounds fun.
I pressed the 100.
You got the code. Only a code.
You have no idea what you've done. You're going to have to close out of that. Yeah. So that's what that does. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you might just want to close that. And whenever you have one of these modifiers applied, it'll give you all of the options it's got. I would suggest if you're really into, like, I want to do this specific thing in Blender, you can probably do it with a modifier or with an add-on. So what you want to do is in here, if you wanted to apply it, like, I'm like, I love this. This looks so good. This hat's awesome. I would really like to have it on the actual geometry. Because right now, if I hit the geometry, it still looks like this. And that's ugly. That's not a hat. I don't like it.
It's a hat shape.
Not really.
But it has this
With the subdivision surface, that looks like a hat. And I love that. So, if I wanted to have that forever, I want to be sure, half the time if you think you can't do something because it's grayed out, you're in the wrong mode. So either switch to object mode or edit mode. But you can go ahead and hit this arrow and hit apply. And now if I hit tab, it's now a bunch of polygons instead of just like 4. It was more than that, but still. But yeah, so some intro fun stuff. What I would suggest doing is just honestly jumping straight in is always fun. But yeah, we can go ahead and do an exercise. So you can follow along with me and choose your own object, but I personally just choose an object. I don't know. Let me do my phone. Pen! I'm going to do a pen. So I usually, for the first exercise, what I did in my first 3D modeling class is he asked us to take real objects, like 12 of them. I'm not going to make you do 12. But taking a real object and 3D modeling it. Because you can feel it, you can see it directly, you don't have to go off your head reference. So, if you would like to follow along with your own object, feel free. If not, you can model a pen with me. So, I'm going to go ahead and delete this, because I don't like hats anymore. They're stupid. Just kidding. I like hats. Okay, I'm sorry. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and model a pen. So, take a look at it. It's got a cylindrical looking thing. I love cylinders. Yippee! So I could take a look at it. It looks like it goes straight up. It comes out a little bit and then goes into the like convex pen nib thing. And then at the bottom, it reaches out into the clicker. And then on the side, it's got the curvy thing that clips onto whatever people put it on. But yeah, so we can go ahead and get started. You have your own object. Feel free to analyze it. Think about the shapes that it makes up. And if you were to take one shape, how would you move it around and make it something else? But yeah. Corn? I want to see the corn.
Carson did the subdivision part. But
That's awesome.
I just followed.
Subdivision surface.
You should
pretty
see what
base.
Jack's doing. Jack's
Shift
taking,
E, the sharpened edges is really cool.
Yeah.
You should show 'em.
Well, now I don't have my hat.
It's
Control Z.
You're right.
the max unused
Hat!
256.
And do
which
more.
is Still nothing.
Oh my goodness. Sharpen those edges.
Yeah, okay. You're right. Carson brought up an amazing point. It's like, wow, what if I wanted this hat with a cool brim?
Oh.
Cool brim, flat brim, awesome brim. With the brim. You can actually, there's a lot of things you can do in Blender. I'm not going to be able to cover all of it in the time we have. But if you select edges and you just left click, you have a million different options, right? So something you can do an edge crease. And this can basically sharpen that edge so that whenever you go to subdivide, it'll look a lot sharper. Oh, that's a whole different story. I love seams. But this is just a sharpened edge. This is Shift E. Okay, I don't need that. On my home computer, you can double click an edge and it'll do it all around. So it doesn't work on here, so I'm just going to manually click edges. Also, I don't have Alt on this keyboard.
I would cry about that.
Yeah. But yeah, so I can hit edge crease, and I can drag this bad boy out, and that's a cool looking sombrero brim. And I love that. That's a funky looking hat, and I love it.
I love it for you.
So now if I hit apply, oh, I'm in edit mode. God damn it. I'm so sorry, I cursed on the VGDC stream. I seem to do that a lot.
Never done it.
I've never done it before, ever.
If you made a bunch of other like swanky changes after, and then you wanted to add the brim, would you have to like go back or like?
I'm pretty sure the edge crease, I forgot if it works on subdivision, like, it's still marked, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna, oh, whoa, wait. Oh, okay. I'm not gonna explain this because it's for Mac, so don't worry about it. But there's a lot of things you can do in order to like, I think if you have an earlier Blender version, if you double click an edge, it'll highlight all the edges on that path. It's alt click on the regular computers. So it's a lot easier. I prefer double click because I like it. But yeah, so this is our hat with brim, with cool brim. And now if I was like, man, I sure do want to shade this thing smooth, it actually looks smooth instead of all wonky. I like that hat way better. Now that is a hat. It's awesome. So anyways, I hate this hat. And I hit X. X is delete. It'll always ask you though. Yes.
I have the hat file.
Do you want the hat file?
Yeah.
Are you gonna put
I
it
can show
on
them how
something?
to export their file.
Oh my god! Would you guys like to learn how to export a file?
What a good segue.
Go. Thank you, my assistant Carson. So, if you would like to, you could save as. That'll just save it as a blend file. You can just open this bad boy up, bring it right back to where you were. But if you want to export it, you can export it as a number of things. So the main two things I would really look for, this is just from my personal experience. But if you're doing games, FBX. If you're doing 3D prints, STL. That's it. If you want to mess with the other ones, feel free. I don't like it. Yes.
I've had good experience with GLTF and Unreal.
Oh, really?
Really?
Oh, I've had terrible experience with it.
Other Unreal projects like that I've like modded before use the same file.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, use that.
I think it's also a good option.
Unreal offers a lot of things where it's like, if you want, most of these would probably work in Unreal.
Yeah.
It's just FBX usually contains a lot more information that is more prevalent to it. Like, can't GLTF not include animation stuff? Or
I haven't tried that yet, but it'll
Okay.
automatically move your materials over.
Yeah. But anyways,
So-
standard is FBX. So if I was like, man, I sure do want to export this hat as an FBX and send it to Carson. Let me put it in my downloads. Cool hat. And you may be like, what the heck is all this stuff on the side? You're right. Because it's weird. It's a lot of stuff I usually don't care about. Half the time it just works, and I'm like, yes. But yeah, so some fun things with this is going to go ahead and show you. If you have materials, this is how I get it to also export materials with it. So I hit copy, and I hit this button, and you're good. That's it. It works. It just works. So we leave it alone. If you only want the selected objects you have in your scene to export, you can just click this. If you want your active collection, click that. You can also switch which object types, kinds you want to export. And then you have other things like transform. You can apply your transform, which way is up, all this stuff. I usually leave it alone because it's very happy there, and we don't like to make it upset. So I'm going to go ahead and export it, and I'll send it to Carson later. But yeah, so now we're going to make a pen. And there's a whole nother half of this, which is a big part of 3D modeling is unwrapping it. So if you were to like take a knife down like this just piece of paper that is your object, how would it unwrap onto a 2D plane? That's the real question. And that's how you texture the object, actually, is on that 2D plane. That's where you have your texture on it, and that's what it maps to, and that's how it shows the texture.
Can apply colors to certain sections?
Yeah. So colors can just be applied directly with things like materials. But if you want like a texture where it is like a brick or something, you want to UV map it. And that's a whole nother fun scenario that's probably for another day because it usually takes a while. But yeah, if anyone would like to learn UV unwrapping, come ask me. I'm happy to show you. I love UV unwrapping. A lot of people do not, but I do love it. But yeah, so now I want to make my pen. I'm done with hat. It's pen time now. So, like I said before, it goes up, curves a little bit outward, and then goes right over to the end of it. Then it's got a little guy and a clicker, and then a thing to hold it. So, I realized that this is mostly a cylinder. So, that's what I'm going to start with. So, I go ahead and hit Shift A, and then I'm like, man, I want this cylinder. And if you are like, wow, that's a cool cylinder, but I want more faces on it, because that's just not smooth enough for me. I'm going to need more. You can hit this add cylinder thing before you click anything else after you've hit add cylinder. You can click this little bar down here, which is just going to say add cylinder. It's going to show you a bunch of options. And it's going to say, how many faces do you want? I can click this up. It's going to make more. So I have more stuff to work with. Usually it's probably good. Oh no! I misclicked it. Let me make another one. I apologize, you guys.
So there's no way
Yes.
to undo that once you let go.
I don't think so. I usually just delete it and start again because it's not like you've done anything to it yet. The only way, so the reason, everything that is an option in here, you can do manually. It's just way easier if you haven't even started doing anything yet. Just delete it and come back into this little menu. But if you wanted to, you could add faces using the loop cut, and you could just keep doing that. But this just makes sure it's all even, and you can get exactly the number you want. So let's say I wanted, I think 24 is a great number to make kind of like a low poly yet really good pen. You can also change the radius so I can make it bigger. Oh no! I forgot that gets rid of it all. Oh, thank God, it saves my settings. Amazing! That's a crazy. Whoa. So I can also make sure big, or it can stay small. But we're gonna stay here, just changing it to 24. So I can now look at my pen, be like, wow, that's a cool pen, but it's not that tall. I'm gonna need to make it a little taller. So I'm gonna take this part that's basically the same. It doesn't change in width. It's like this bit. It's not expanding at any point. It's just literally a cylinder. I'm going to take that amount and I'm going to take it with my pen and make it to scale. Yes.
How do you select all of like around and like the vertices? Do you remember what that?
I think it's alt-click. You click one and then you alt-click the other. That should work. If not, ask Carson because I don't know the stuff on Mac.
It's options. Doesn't matter.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Cool. Great. So now I have my pen. I'm like, cool. I like that. I like that one segment of my pen. However, it's got this area that goes out and comes back in to the end. So now I'm going to go into edit mode. So you hit tab. Tab will bring you to edit mode. You can also hit up here, and it'll bring you to all the different modes. There's sculpt mode, vertex paint, weight paint, texture paint, all this fun stuff. If you want to do sculpting, that's where this is. We will not get into that today, but if you're interested in sculpting, they have it on Blender. Not as good as ZBrush, which is on the university computers in the design school, I think. But this is free. So it's not as good, but it is there. But yeah, so you can take your awesome thing. I'm gonna go ahead and take this top bit and be like, okay, cool. I want to go ahead and extrude this with E. I'm going to go ahead and then scale it. I hit S, but if you want, it's gonna be right over there. Scale it. I'm gonna hit extrude again. I'm gonna scale it. And this just made sure it comes out a little bit as like that little grip. And now I'm gonna have it go into that final like pen nib. So this is just a very simple block out, but I'll get more specific later. So I'm gonna make this a little smaller. So if I wanted to go into this edge and make it smaller, like as Carson said, I can just go in here. Oh no, not that one. There we go. I can, if you're on Mac, it's Option. If you're on PC, it's Alt, right? Okay. And you just hold the line you want to basically get the loop of. And then you can mess with it however you want. Yes!
How do I move up? Like, I'm
Oh.
looking at the base and I don't know how to go up.
Oh, on trackpad it's a little tricky. But you should be able to. Yeah, we do have mice. I don't know if they have USB-C connections.
I would love a mouse.
Oh no, you're good. That's why we have them.
We always have some that you can borrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have a USB mouse because
Anyone else
I
want one more?
like I forgot.
That's awesome, Gloria. You did so good.
Yeah, no worries.
It is a pretty simple object, but there's a lot of vertices involved.
Yeah, you do the little things.
Okay. So now I have this general pen shape from basically from here all the way up to here. And I'm like, man, that doesn't really look like my pen yet. I'm a little confused. That looks weird. No, we can smooth her out using,
Shade smooth?
no,
Subdivision? What are we
no.
Okay,
That hurts my feelings. No, I'm kidding. If I want this geometry, I want this bad boy to be curved instead of pow, pow. What do we? You got it. You got it. You kind of got it. You piggybacked off the other. No. So, boom. We're gonna use Bevel, our best friend. We love Bevel. So with this, and you might be thinking, Jayden, yes.
Now that I have the mouse, how do I go up?
Yes, so you can look around by holding down on the scroll wheel. Pressing down, and you can look around. If you want to move around, you can hit shift and then press down on the scroll wheel and move around.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much.
Yeah. But yeah, so you might be thinking, Jayden, doesn't Bevel only take that one edge and make it two? Don't worry. Thank you. Yeah, I knew it. I knew you were just thinking that. I don't want to lead you astray. But don't worry, guys, because Bevel is the best. Oh, what did I do? Okay, there we go. Bevel is the best. Because if I hit Bevel and I unclick it, it shows up with all these options. And I love options. And this means if I hit segments and I make more, that's a smooth boy. And I love that.
That's a smooth boy, and I love that.
That's a smooth boy.
Put it on a t-shirt.
And now, look at that. That's so smooth. Whoa. That's a little grip if I've ever seen it. That's beautiful. Yes.
How did you get them all highlighted at once?
Yes. So if you want, if you're on edge mode, which if you were not here, but whenever you're in edit mode, you can edit the faces, the edges, and the vertices. Yes. So if you want to highlight everything in an edge, you can hit Option on if you're on a Mac, Alt if you're on a computer. Oh, what is it? And then you click on that like row, or.
Don't have all.
Oh. Oh no.
You have the same computer. I'm pretty sure you have. You got two of them actually.
Okay, cool. We're good. But yeah, so that's how you would do it. So now I got this little grip on my pen. That's awesome. So my hands will hurt if I don't have that. I'm very happy. But I don't like how uneven this is. I don't like it. So. Whoa. Whoa. What did I do? Ignore that. I don't know what that was. If you hit buttons in here or any keys, something will happen, and it's scary. I'm like, I hit anything, and I'm like, what? So, I'm gonna, there we go. Yes.
By what methodology did you take the ring and make the whole thing all smooth like that?
So, in terms of like how I made it like this.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I start off with, if I have my real life object, I'm like, okay, this segment right here is an equal radius. That's cool, because then I can just take my original cylinder and up that. But this is where it starts jutting out a little bit. This is the little grip. So I extruded it once, expanded it out,
Yeah.
extruded it, then shrunk it.
I've got that, but like
Yeah.
after that you took a ring and then like smoothed it out more.
Yes. So whenever you want to do that, you want to select the middle ring, and you're like, I want to smooth this out to a bunch of different segments. So I did it to a bunch of segments. You use Bevel. So you can go ahead and click Bevel or B. I think it's B, right? I'm not good with shortcuts. Control B? Something like that.
How do you select the whole ring?
Either Alt or Option. And then you
It's selecting this space. So I want it looks better little. I know,
Oh, you're on face mode. You want to go to edge mode? Oh, that's vertices. And you go to middle mode. Yeah, and then you can just select, yeah, and then alt that one.
What's happening with this one?
But yeah. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think of
I'll make this 24.
People don't respect my
Oh, yeah,
workshop.
you do.
I do. Thank you.
Being real, I can't
But yeah, so
however.
usually whenever you bevel, it'll only take one edge and split it into two, right? So in the options, whenever you go to bevel something, you can actually increase the segments it will create. And then you just increase that until it's nice and smooth. That's a fun way of doing it, at least from my perspective. But yeah, and you might be like, but Jayden, it's a little uneven. Why is that? I'm going to tell you why. It's because a stinky thing. Stinky, stinky thing. Nothing you're doing wrong, because I did it wrong too. I forgot to do something. So if you go to object mode after you're done with like doing a bunch of transform stuff, you can hit on Mac it is Command A, I think. Hold on. Command A, and for you guys it should also be Command A. If you're on object mode and you click your object and you hit Command A, it'll pop up with this menu. And this menu is your lifesaver. Because if anything doesn't ever look really right, this is why. And all you want to do is you want to hit all transforms. And it fixes everything. And it's beautiful. So basically what happens is whenever you import your initial object, bless you, if you make any changes to it, such as scale, rotation, I think position also sometimes messes with it, but if you ever move any of those, you gotta apply all transforms. Because then if you go into edit mode and you do fun stuff in there, it's gonna be confused. And why it's confused, I know it in the back of my head, but I don't really at the same time, because it's confusing. But this just works. So yeah, if anything ever doesn't look right, you hit bevel or something and it's like weirdly uneven, because usually it's just supposed to be super flat and beautiful. But if it's ever looking weird, the reason why, you gotta apply all transforms.
What if you don't have a command on Max? That's ridiculous.
Or no.
Yeah,
no,
I agree.
I also think you.
Try Control A. If that doesn't work, I'll probably look it up for Chromebook, because I don't know.
I'll just do it.
Because I don't know where to find it without shortcut. Because it's hidden somewhere. But yeah, so if anything's ever wrong, it's probably their fault. So, and now if I were to go back into edit mode, and I'm like, man, because if you notice, this bevel's a little uneven. This top side is way bigger than this bottom side. And I don't like that. However, if I was like, man, now that I've done that, apply all transforms, and I want to bevel it again. Okay, I'm just bad, I guess. I'm just kidding. I'm awesome. What?
Sorry.
That I'm awesome?
No.
Means I'm awesome.
What makes you awesome, you know?
Everything.
Feels like an interview question and I'm not prepared for that.
Oh, that's inset. I was like, why isn't it working? It's inset. My bad. So yeah, if I wanted to bevel, now it's actually gonna look right. And it's not gonna be stinky anymore.
Bevel is Command B.
Yeah. I just like hitting the button. But now we have our pen tip. And I'm like, I really want to make this pen tip really cool. It's nice and smooth. I'm gonna do a bevel again.
I'm gonna paint it.
If you want, post it on Discord, man. So proud of you. So I'm gonna bevel this, and if you ever outstretch something, it'll show up like that. And that's pretty yucky. Usually you just kind of want to hold it like that. And I can increase the segments if I want it just a little bit smoother. Keep in mind, if it's for games, you kind of want it pretty low poly. So keep like just your segments and bevels involved. In your head. Yeah, we might not get there, but I can help you if you need help with that. But yeah, so now we have our pen tip, and I'm like, cool, this thing's awesome, but it's got a hole in there. a little hole. And I don't know how I feel about that because I don't have that. You got it. Gloria just said it. Bonus points. You inset it. So, now that we have this face, we're like, man, how am I supposed to get ink out of this thing? It's closed off. No. We can open her.
We can open her.
That's what she said.
Oh no! classic Jayden blunder. So we'll go ahead and inset the face. We'll take this and we're like, I want to create basically a concave version of this. So I'm gonna inset it and just create this hole right here, and then I can hit E to extrude. That's the one shortcut I know. And then you can move it down. And then boom, we have a place where you can actually get the pen tip out of. And now I'm like, man, this does kind of look a little flat though. So I'm gonna go ahead and bevel that bad boy. Bevel's my favorite function. If you can't tell, it's so awesome. It's beautiful. Just does things. It's amazing. That's inset. Oh my god. The also fun thing is that if you do hit, undo, it'll also undo your previous selections. So it's like it does take that into account. So also that's another thing is if you only have 25 undo slots, it takes a selection as each of those. Yes.
How did you extruded cut?
Yes. So I took the top of it, the top face that's completely flat, no hole in it. I inset it, so it's got this inner circle, and then I extruded it. Except when you're extruding, you don't have to go up. You can go in. So you can actually just move down. It'll go down. It's perfect. So we can then extrude. Not extrude. Bevel. And now, look at that. That's beautiful. That's awesome. Yeah. And now we have just our pen right here. Except it's not done yet. No. You may be thinking, Jayden, it's done. No. There's more.
It's never done.
I know. The work is never done. I'm trying to make this the most exciting VGDC workshop you've ever seen in your life.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Oh, the fun.
I'm selling you a pen. Yeah.
This is how you sell someone a pen. You can work and they're
Yeah.
like, sell me this pen. They're like, okay, so this is how you
Exactly. This is how you model the pen. This is all the intricacies of the design that got worked out. Yeah, so I'm going to just... I'm rotating it so it's upside down, just because I want to work on the other part of it now. I could rotate it all. I'm not going to do that though, because that's silly. So sometimes I work upside down, and sometimes it's a little disorienting, but also it kind of looks the same, which is crazy. Except these up here, the ones without the X, Y, and Z on them, those are your negatives. So right now we're in the negatives of Z. So if you're ever curious as to where you are, you're good. You can also hit those and go to face that direction. So if I wanted to be I want to face negative Y, it'll put me in that perspective, in a 2D perspective, and it's great. If you want to work on just one side of it without worrying about another, you can just do this. It's great. And then you just rotate out of it. It's pretty great. So yeah, now we want to go ahead and we got down to here. I'm like, man, I sure do want this little guy right here to click my pen out of. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to inset it just like we did at the top. Except it's a little different just because it's going to be a little bit bigger. And then we're going to extrude it upwards. And then we can bevel it. So this is how fast you can go. Yeah, speed run your bevel. Yeah, so the only way you can do that is by this width. You can drag that. If you hit this yellow dot again, it's just going to try and bevel it again. It's gonna bevel what you have selected, which is your bevel. So it's gonna double bevel it.
Oh my god, we are so crazy. Yeah, she's doing it very manual way. I use a lot of you're a wizard. Oh my goodness. This is amazing. Both of you guys are
I'm trying to show this like the beginner
I
way.
was that I really needed.
Oh, what was it?
It was just, I just told her letting control B to bevel and then like
Oh, yeah.
and scroll wheel to segment.
Because
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
struggling to like place it and then
Sorry.
I don't like the placing and then I'm okay.
Yeah.
You were doing it
No,
very
there's a lot of shortcuts. Many I don't delve into, just because I want to keep it simple so that I'm not like remember this, and this. So if you're ever like I want to do this faster, just look up a bunch of shortcuts and you can be literally a wizard at it. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and just bevel stuff because it looks good when you bevel stuff. If you're gonna shade smooth, anytime you have a really flat thing, even if it's like concave in here, you want to make a tiny, tiny little bevel. And that's so that whenever you shade smooth, it's not gonna be all weird and funky. No, you can do that. You can also do what we did earlier where you can make the crease. That's also an option. I just like doing this. It makes me feel better. And now we're like, wow, I have this pen, Jayden. That's so cool. But where's the thing to clip it onto my shirt? That's my favorite part of a pen. You might be thinking that. And don't worry, guys. I'm here to help you.
Least favorite part of the pen.
What?
It always breaks off.
You know what?
I mean, we're going.
Max hates
Jayden, I've been
pens
hyping you up all night, but I
It's
cannot
okay.
agree with that.
No.
Oh, you almost fucking know.
I would do the same, but this is not my pen. I found it on this table.
See, we're done modeling actually.
No, we're not.
There's no thingy.
You didn't model that. We're modeling this.
I'm modeling this.
Shut up. Okay, so there's also this like slight curve down. We're like, man, this has got a little curve on it. Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
So I'm like, man, I sure do like that. However, I'm like, man, I want to drag this little area down. How much time do I have?
It's 8:13.
Perfect. I have awesome amount of time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to drag this a little down because this isn't completely flat. It's a little curved. But I'm happy because I already got everything that is flat completely out of the way. But now I'm like, man, I got this. How do I drag that down without going vertice by vertice? That'd be a pain in the ass. You want to do that. What you can do is I'm going to decide which, because right now everything's symmetrical. Everything is completely like, it's good. If you were to look at it anyway, it would look the same. Right now what we're going to do is we want to choose where we want to start our asymmetry. So I'm going to just go ahead and choose here. It doesn't really matter. But what you can do is you can select one of these edges that you're going to do. And then, there we go. Right there. So, this up here is some tools. Helpful tools you can use for later. There's two that are very important. There's this magnet. That's if you want to snap it to the grid. Very helpful if you want to do things that snap to the grid. Thank you, Duncan. Thank you. The other one, which is what we're going to use, is proportional editing. And this, if you grab one of these edges and you drag it down, the ones beside it are going to come with. But on a bell curve. So it's not, yeah.
That's cool.
It's pretty cool.
Did you change the curve?
You can.
No way.
I know. You can also change what shape the curve is.
Oh. I want random.
That's an awesome feature.
I know.
Random would be really good in the corner of my face.
Yeah, random's really good. I love that one. But yeah, so you could. Do you want to use it? Yeah, we can use it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So now, if also another shortcut, if you want to learn shortcuts, G is to move around, and then you can hit X, Y, or Z to be like the axes you want to move it on. So I can hit G.
Avoid one axis.
What?
Actually, no.
Yeah, I actually don't fucking know.
Shift X,
I think you
shift
can-
Y,
oh.
shift Z.
Yeah, X and Y.
Shut up, Jack. No,
Because
okay.
of the last one that Mitchell ran.
Oh.
I made a lamppost.
Sorry, I can't be him. Okay. No. Okay. So whenever you have G on it and you're dragging it down, this doesn't really work whenever you manually hit the arrow thingy and you're trying to move it. It doesn't really work that well. But whenever you press G and you can move it around, you can use your scroll wheel to increase or decrease the amount of area it affects. Isn't that beautiful?
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Isn't it just?
It's so just.
Thank you. But yeah, so now you're like, wow, that's crazy. I love that. I'm gonna put it off random.
It's a good challenge.
But yeah, if you see, I can move it down and I can move it around. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And it moves a bunch of stuff. And if I were to increase it, it'd move everything. If I were to decrease it, it'd move only a little bit. Yeah.
Were you using the scroll wheel there?
Oh my god. It's Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated.
Let's do that.
Ditch this.
That might have been my plan all along. Question.
Oh,
Who had a question?
Asking, like, for you to move it, it was scroll wheel you were doing? Yeah.
So with G, I'm moving, after I hit G, I can move it around with just the mouse, but if I want to move the area it affects, I use the scroll wheel.
Okay, yeah.
Ooh, jiggle. Jiggle, jiggle. And if I'm like, I only want it to move on the Z-axis, because I just want to move it down. I don't want to move it side to side, I just want to move it down. So, I'm going to hit Z, and I'm just going to move it like that. And boom! We have a pen that went down to the side. Ka-chow! I'm not done. I'm not done. Yeah! Yes! I did it!
Freeze frame.
Encore.
Hey, Jayden.
Yes!
You like my geometry?
Can I see this?
What'd you do?
Everything.
I think someone beveled a little too hard, am I right, you guys? Oh! What? Oh, bevel it, it'll be fine.
No, it looks great.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's good.
Pen, not
So now I have this. I'm like, I love that. And it's curved. And I love that so much. But boy, I sure do want that pen clip. It's making me really sad without it. Is it making you sad?
I'm getting really depressed about it.
Yeah, exactly.
We need the pen clip.
We need the pen clip to round out our day. And this is where you're probably gonna see me make some mistakes because I hate curves. So yeah, so we have this pen. I see it goes down on the lower part of the curve. That's where it comes out from. So I'm like, man, I really want one of these edges, but I can't just. I want one of these faces. I want this face. But if I extrude it, that doesn't look like it. It looks awful. No one's gonna wear that. Thank you, Gloria. But no one in their sane mind would wear that. So what we're gonna do is we want something much smaller than that. We don't want that. That's what the heck. We don't want the whole pen, right? R. Oh. Command R. What is the? That didn't do anything. Oh, did it really? Oh, wow.
Shortcuts.
Okay, well, so what we're gonna do is I only want to extrude one small segment of it up near the top. I don't want to worry about anything else, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this loop cut that we have, and we're gonna hold down on it, and we're gonna drag it up. And there we go. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Now, whenever we hit this face, thank you. Now whenever we hit this and we extrude it, it'll only go down that. Wow! I'm gonna go ahead and
not like a lot of bits.
So what happens in a loop cut is it is going to basically take the average between them, like your two loop cuts. Your two edges that it's loop cutting. And basically what it sees here is it's a weighted average as it gets closer to one
Can you
edge.
change that? Oh, it's a weight. Okay.
Yeah, so if it gets closer to this one, it's like, you're like, it's going to be more curved. But you can actually straighten it. Don't worry. You can straighten it if you want to. We don't want to. We can, though. So, if you wanted to straighten this edge,
Put it back in the closet.
if you wanted to straighten this edge, I'm on face. If you wanted to straighten this edge, you can hit S, which is the scale button. Oh, I'm still on proportional. Hit S, which is the scale button. And then you hit 0. Wait for it. I know it looks weird. Wait for it. And then you can find which axis is going to be flat. I believe it's Z. And it'll just flatten it on that axis. So, and then you can click it, and it's perfectly flat. So that's how you would make something like a flat edge. You don't have to worry. Everything's completely on the same Z. And you can even drag this down if you want. If you wanted to make this bigger or shorter. Yeah, and now I'm just like, man, I want this holder so bad.
I never questioned that.
Yeah, a lot of the times you don't have to worry about it, but if you ever wanted to know, that's how you would straighten an edge. Well, I guess a bunch of edges along the same axis. It's very helpful sometimes whenever you want things to be even and you have like vertices out jagged like along a circle and you're like, what the heck? You can just do S0 and then whatever plane you want it to be flat against.
Cool.
Yeah. So now I'm gonna go ahead and extrude it. And now I can even go ahead and rotate it because I'm like, it curves. She curves down. So I'm gonna go ahead and rotate it by hitting R. And as you can see, it'll just rotate around. Whoa, that's cool. I don't know what that is, but that's cool. I hit something and it happened. Isn't that beautiful? That's the beauty of Blender. You can just do that. If you wanted to, oh no.
Do you need my charger?
Maybe.
Do you have USB-C?
Yeah. Uh-oh, you guys. The pen takes too much power. Thank you. Coming in for the save. Yeah, it probably is because I'm also streaming and...
Your Mac is like so stressed out.
Yeah, it's a MacBook Air from 2020. I don't think it can handle much. Yeah, it really does. She's a trooper. She was free. Isn't that lovely? So anyways. I know. They're giving him away. They're so bad. So you can rotate it as well. You can rotate it along this plane. Then you can go ahead and move it if you want, too. I'm like, I want it to be down here. Beautiful. How did it get crooked? Oh, I rotated it before. There we go. I'm going to try something out, because I forgot if I could do this or not. Okay, no, it doesn't work. I forgot how to do it. It's whenever you, like, click, and then it'll go along that where you're clicking. It'll extrude to where you're clicking. Exactly. It's like, it's so cool, but I forgot how to do it. Look it up real fast, Gloria. I'm tasking you. There's a really cool trick, but I forgot how to do it. Because it's been so long since I've been on Blender. But basically, this trick is like you can click on it, and it'll extrude and rotate to that point. So right now, Gloria's on that task. Find it, find it, find it. I know it's like some extrude thing. I know it's like shift click. Yeah. Control R. That's. No. Did you find it? If we can't find it, we can do it manually, but it just sucks to do it manually.
This is my magnet.
Oh, it's like the bridge. And over the pipe. I get it.
Although I don't like the lighting down there.
Yeah, it's down there.
Did you lighten this one?
What's a minute?
You could do this, Gloria. This is what you're born for.
Behind it?
Although I do like the this is such a high resolution, the 2-tron background plate is no longer enough.
You
You get an extra line.
could do it. Did you find it?
The cow is very slow.
No.
I don't realize that sometimes it's gonna be a cow.
Yeah, it's super easy once you get it. But yeah. Yay! What is it? What is it? What is it? Oh my god, I got it. I got it. Control left click. I mean, sorry, right click. Okay, cool. Super cool trick. Very fun. So what you can do is whenever you have a face selected, I'd had to have Gloria look it up. But at least we know it could do it. So you can hit control, you can hold that down, and then hit left click, and it'll actually extrude and rotate.
Wait, what's the bind to that? Oh yeah.
Control and then left click. Whenever you just have a face selected. Yeah.
You can also do it with vertices.
What? I don't even remember. I think. Oh, left. Oh. See, like, I remember it being control right click, so it might just be Matt. But if it's different, if it's not working with left click, use right click. It'll work on one of those. But yeah. So isn't that beautiful? Oh God, what is that? But yeah, so you can do that, and it's awesome. So we're gonna use that to make our pen. So we can actually look at the curvature and be like, okay, so it goes out a little bit and then curves back in and goes right a little bit out. So I'm going to turn this pen upside down actually and take a look at it while I do it. I'm gonna hold control, click out, keep going. Sure, that's good enough, you guys. Actually, you know what? Yeah. So just like last time, we can bevel this, right? Like, we don't like it right now because it's a little stinky. We don't like it. But we can bevel that bad boy. And that's beautiful. So, what we're going to do first is... I know. Get excited. It's going to be so cool. Get excited, you guys. So what we can also do is if you want, you can do this, and then you can hit proportional editing again. You can actually scale it. And you can make it so that it'll like get thinner.
Oh, but that affects like the main part of your face.
Not if you go out too much. If you stay within like a certain amount, because it only will affect what's right next to it. So if you expand the area too much, then it will affect that geometry. But if you stay within like this certain area, it will only affect what's right next to it. No, it's just like what is like connected to it. Yeah. So, so I went ahead and I made it a little bit thinner as it's going on. Yeah, and then you can also make it wider in the middle. So it's like, I really want this to be a little bit wider because I'm like, this guy's a little bit too thin. Yeah. So yeah, so I can go ahead and I can move this out, but I can go ahead and constrict how much it's affecting the things around it. So I'm gonna go here. And I can also do this manually, right? I can hit this. I can select this edge. I can select all the edges using option. I can turn off proportional, or you can just scroll it down a lot so it doesn't even affect anything. But yeah, so I went ahead and made that a little bit thicker. And now I'm just like, we want to do our favorite thing. And what is that, Naila? You know what? You got it. Yeah, we're going to bevel. Because bevel is our favorite. What? So subdivision, I personally wouldn't do it, just because I don't know how much it would help. I think it would just, we can do it at the end just to test it out, but sometimes whenever things get more complex, it takes a long time to calculate, and it will be cooler. Like, we can test out, and it will just be smoother. Usually you just want to, like, stay around this poly. Because at some point it just doesn't do much. Because you can shade smooth and you won't see any of this anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and select these. I was accidentally hitting FN. And I'm going to bevel these. Because I love bevel. So I'm going to first bevel this area here. Because it's a sharp edge. I'm going to go ahead. Not good with key things. Control B. Make a little one. And then I can also go down and then can also do it here as well. And perfect. Yippee! So now we like these edges, but they're just so strong. They're so sharp. We're not a huge fan of these. So what we can also do, so we can select these as well, and that's really cool. So we can also select those, and we can bevel these as well. You can also do this. You can also just go around here. So, yeah, just everyone's talking. Yeah, but yeah, so our final thing is just we can go ahead and bevel it. If we wanted to, we could actually bevel it to here, and it would actually look pretty cool. Whenever it does this, usually you brought it in a little bit too far, and it's conflicting with each other. So this is called Z-fighting. So whenever things are on top of each other, or inverted in some cases, you can actually, it'll show up like this. It happens a lot in games, but if you rotate it around, you'll see it like being all wonky. That's called Z-fighting. So in order to solve that, you just don't want to basically have faces go over each other. That's just very important. So in order to solve that, I'm going to unselect the things that were basically causing all the Z-fighting. And I'll go ahead and do that. And I think we're good. I think it's got everything. So you can go ahead, bevel again. Oof, make sure it doesn't Z-fight. And I think that's good. Yeah. Cute. Here, wait. I'm going to go ahead and do this separately. Dude. So sometimes if your subdivision doesn't really look how you want it to, what you can do is you can go ahead and just select kind of things that you would want to do it separately with. And then I'm going to make that too. And then you can do the ones that are having trouble that you're not a huge fan of. So like these, I want theirs to be larger. Like I want it to, whenever it's subdividing, to be a lot smoother. So I want it to be a different width than the other bevels. So I'll just bevel it separately. Go ahead and do that. See? Now it looks funky. It looks weird. I don't like it. That doesn't look like a pen. It's ugly. I don't like that. Yeah. Sometimes you gotta do that. Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can undo that bevel. Undo does not go that far. That's fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and select this. I keep forgetting all the controls on Mac. Oh, I'm on proportional again. But yeah, so I can go ahead and move this over just so it's kind of out of the way. Because I think that's what's causing all the things with it, is the fact that it just wasn't having a good time with all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and go there. Now, I'm going to go ahead and select all these again because I feel confident that the bevel will now be happy. And when bevel's happy, we're all happy. So make that one segment. Dang. So you can actually manually do this as well. Whenever it's funky like this, you can go to vertex and you can just select the ones that are being funky and unflip them. I know it's weird and it's not efficient, but you can do it. I've done a lot where it's like I just kind of want to manually fix it instead of just like I'm happy with everything else except for what is being upset. So I'll just like go ahead and take that and then move it manually so it stops fighting. And then it's happy. And that's all that matters. So I'm going to go ahead and select these again. Oops. There we go. And now we can bevel these. It's just going to be a lot smoother. That's beautiful. I'm going to add to the segments as well if we want it to be even more smooth. There we go. Thank you. And there we go.
That's so good.
We have our pen. And where to look? Ka-chow. So, and now if I were to go to object mode, I'm like, wow, this is a pretty sick pen. I love this pen. It's my favorite pen. Now, I can shade smooth, and it'll look like this. And it'll look how I actually want it to. And you'll notice by all that beveling we did, those edges won't look all weird and like triangular. They'll actually look nice and smooth, and like the object you're trying to emulate. We can go ahead and try to subdivide this just to see how it looks. Just curiosity, yeah. So we can go ahead and take a look. Sometimes it does like look a little weird, but sometimes it's nice and crisp like this. So this is with subdivision, which actually looks really nice. So there we go. The only thing it doesn't look super nice with is with this underside, but if you went in and you like cleaned up that geometry a little bit just to make subdivision happy, because you can go into edit mode and then you can edit it seeing the subdivision underneath it. Yeah, you can do that as well. That's actually one of the good ways of fixing it. It's just hard to see it. So like you can do edge crease, and yeah, that usually does a good job at just really fixing that edge. It sometimes will look a little triangular unless you really do take the time to like do that to a lot of the edges. But if I hit this and I do it to all the edges in this loop, and I go ahead and edge crease all of it, it does look a bit better. So it just depends on how you want it to look at the end. Like this now just has a longer line, but I mean, I personally think that's fine. I think it looks good. and you can choose not to render it. You can choose not to see it real fast. You can do that using these buttons as to what you'll see. And you can also increase the amount in which it will subdivide it by, which is very awesome. But yeah, so now our pen is basically done. If anyone wanted to put materials on it, I'll show a very basic thing of materials. There's a lot you can do with it in terms of things like nodes. So whenever you, if you ever want to add, let's say, another one of these tabs, you can, whenever it shows up with this, like, move it back and forth, you can actually left-click that and do a vertical split. Where'd it go? That was weird. Went away. There we go. It'll show up with this. You can click that, and it'll show you a different view. Okay, that's weird. I know, 2 pens! And you can rotate it in one direction, and if you're editing it, you can see it from the other side as well. So it's like this can give you 2 different views, but you can also use it to, oh my god. You can also use it to view a lot of different things. So usually someone will have their model, and then next to it they'll have, let's say, a UV editor. So in 3D modeling, UVs are extremely important. And their name actually comes from, they don't use X and Y, they use U and V. So they're called UVs, and this is essentially how you take the 3D model and you create seams and unwrap it. And you unwrap it to be on a 2D plane, and that's where whatever you draw, whatever you do, will be on that 2D plane, and then will map to the 3D object. And so that's how you get all those very textures, like hand-painted things. Really just in general, a good UV layout is amazing. If you can show someone that you can like actually optimize it and get it in a good format so it's not just a mess. Like on here, they have things so you can auto UV unwrap. It's not neat, I will say. But if you take the time and you mark seams, so in the same way we did like the crease on the edge, you can highlight an edge and you can say mark as a seam. So whenever it's unwrapping, it basically will take a knife and it'll cut out all those seams, and then it'll unwrap it using what you said to mark it as. So whenever you're unwrapping, it's gonna unwrap according to that, rather than a bunch of auto stuff that doesn't really know what it's doing. It does its best if you want to be fast. So keep that in mind. If you want to be fast, feel free to use it, because it is awesome if you're trying to rush. But yeah, other than that, there's a lot of other stuff, such as geometry nodes. Those are something that's individual to Blender. You plug nodes in, and it'll like procedurally generate things. It's really cool. If you are interested, look up stuff on YouTube about it. If you like make one object and you want, let's say, I've used it before, I made a light, and I'm like, I want a bunch of lights along this string. I could do that, and I said, along this curve, place lights this way. So it's super cool. There's also the shader editor, which if you're familiar with Unreal's material and shader editors, that is very similar. It does have a few different functions, different names, which is annoying, but you live and you learn. They also have things, if you are interested in tools programming, first of all, come and chat with me. Hey, buddy. Hey, fellow pipeline technical artist. They have pipeline consoles, so you can automate things. It's awesome. You can write tools and click a button, and it'll auto do stuff for you. It's great. If you know Python, and you're interested, make tools, even sell them online for like $2 or $3. You make like $60 a month. Pretty cool. If your tool's good. But yeah, there's a bunch of different stuff that you can do here. There's also, this is for animation, so if you're animating, that's a whole different story. But it is here where you can add keyframes and you can make smooth animations according to the dope sheet. That's what it's called. It's called the dope sheet. I know. So I'm going to go ahead and show if this is a shader editor. But yeah, so if I wanted to go ahead and add a texture, so material to my model, I'll go ahead and hit this little circle. That's red and gray. If you're on dark mode, which you should be, because if not, that's weird. Unless you don't know how to change it, which I've been a victim to that many times, in which case I understand and I rescind my that's weird. But yeah, go ahead and click the ball at the bottom. That's just above the last one. It'll be called Material Properties. So with this, you can actually add a new material. And the reason I have the shader pulled up is because I can show you what a material contains. So I added this material onto here. I'm like, wow, I really like this material. I want it on there. It's on there. So cool. In order to see it, I'm like, wow, it's supposed to be white though. It's like, it's still gray. It's still normal. So what you want to do is in your viewer, you want to change from up there in the little corner. You can change it from just like the viewport regular shading. You can click the next one over and it'll show you your texture. It'll show you the materials you have on it in real time. You can also do this rendering thing if you want to kill your computer, but if you have a light in the scene, it'll actually like show the light. Super cool. But yeah, I just have white. If I wanted to change it, I could change it to pink. I like pink. But yeah, so everything that is in a materials are very important. So the difference between a material, texture, and shader, because I got this question recently. Hi! So it basically goes a little bit outward. So what you can start with is a texture. You have a 2D texture. And that is what you use and you put it onto a material. And material is the thing that contains all the data, such as like the roughness, the metallic, the color, the everything that you need to know about that material. But in here, you can plug a texture onto it. That's basically just like if you had a repeating brick PNG, that would be a texture that you could plug onto the albedo, which means, not albedo, I'm sorry, the base color. It's called a million different things on a million different programs. But yeah, so you can plug that in and that'll be the texture of it. And you would need to UV unwrap, which is a whole separate story, which I'm afraid we probably don't have enough time to jump into. But yeah, so with a material, you do have a lot of things on it. So you have your base color, and all of these you can plug textures onto. And then we have subsurface color. So that's the color that I believe it's what bounces off from whenever a light hits it. It's like that's what will bounce off of it. But down here is where you get your very important stuff that we care about a lot. So we have metallic, which does as it's named. Whenever you drag it up, it will exhibit more metallic properties. So I can go ahead and drag that up. This looks a lot better if you're like in Unreal and it has the thing around it where it shows you all the like reflection. Right now it's just showing you whatever. But it's like, it will give a more metallic property to it where it has more clear shine and more clear metal properties. That looks so cool. Nice. And so we also have specular. So that's how much like light's bouncing off of it. Roughness is how shiny it is. So you can drag it all the way down. That's a super shiny pen. I love that pen. It's a straight up glass pen. Or you can drag the roughness all the way up and it has absolutely zero shine. There's a lot of things to make it glass. But yeah, and then alpha is also just like transparency. With this right now, I believe it would just be from 0 to 1. But on here, you could plug a texture into it where you want certain parts to be transparent and some parts not to be. So you have all this fun stuff that you can play around with, and it makes a great texture. If you wanted to paint things, you'd first have to UV unwrap, which, once again, I'll do a simple thing very quickly because we have like 10 minutes. Join areas. There we go. So now that I have this, I'm like, man, I sure do want to UV unwrap this. Bless you. So I'm first going to go ahead and add in my UV editor. So this is where it is. I haven't made anything yet. So it's a little confused because it's like, whoa, I don't know where everything is. What? So now we have everything. Something that's also fun is this button right up here next to your rendering options. That's X-ray. So you can turn that on and you can see the stuff behind. You can see every like edge and everything like that. And you can even select them. So I use this usually to like highlight everything. And whenever you select something for the first time, what you're gonna see is the original thing you started with. So this is the original cylinder we started with, and it's just been building off of that. And that is obviously not what we want, because this does not look like our pen. So what you can do is whenever you are doing a lot of this stuff, you can select an edge and be like, mark seam. And so whenever it's unwrapping everything, which you can do with this, oh, I didn't select everything. You can do with this, it only used that one seam I made, which obviously we don't want. We don't want that just one seam. But for time's sake, I'm gonna unmark that. And then I'm gonna select all of this, and I'm going to, this is the fast way, not a way if you're doing something for a project or something you actually like care about and you want to look really good. But if you just want the fast way, you can do a smart UV project. And this, sometimes it's just like, I don't really know what's going on there, so I just hit OK. And then it does that. And it puts it into like all these different parts and all this different weird stuff. You can change the angle and it'll change how much it like splits everything apart. So right now this is basically like it's split in half and everything's in different parts, right? So you can then drag these around on this UV square and basically just pack it in. And usually you'd have a lot more than just this. But you can then on here edit it manually and be like, I'm going to drag this edge over here and make it larger so that whenever I'm drawing on it, it has a lot higher resolution. So yeah, this would be how you would UV unpack things. But if you want, you can manually hit seams, which is a lot better way to do it because you can hit like this, this edge up here. I would probably mark a seam all the way down my pen to split it in half kind of. And then I would make a seam around this part, this up, and yeah. It would just, ultimately, it looks better if you do it by hand. Is it fun? No. No one likes it.
You like it?
I do like it. One person likes it in the world. But yeah, so that's how you would do it. And then this is what, after that, you can export this out as that FBX. You put it in Adobe Substance Painter. That's my favorite. You can color on it. You can also, Blender, I haven't really used it much, but they do have a painter in here.
Texture paint.
Yeah, and you can texture paint.
Quixel something?
Quixel Bridge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can texture paint.
Quixel Bridge has a lot of, they're partnered with Epic, right? Yeah. And they not only have a lot of free models, which are great, very high poly, but they're great. But they also have a lot of free textures that are often repeatable. So if you're looking for like things like ground textures, go to Quixel's, Quixel Megascan stuff. But they also have programs where you can do Quixel Bridge and you can paint and stuff on there. But yeah, so you could go into Texture Painter and all this fun stuff, and you can paint on here. And if you have a drawing tablet, you can use that. But yeah, so that's how you would do that, and it'll show up on here. And so if you're ever exporting it into a game or anything like that, you have this image, you can plug it into that engine's like material node, and it's good. Because it saves this UV, and it goes, I want this. I want whatever looks like this pen here and this pen here. If it doesn't look like that, I'm gonna look weird. So,
Yeah.
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 So, if you have your UV set up, everything will be consistent and it'll look consistent across every board. But yeah, so that's a good rounded thing of Blender in total. Yes, Duncan.
5 minutes left. Can you add an animation to make the pen play?
We still gotta do
In 5
minutes.
Jayden, would you like to tag out?
Do it.
I can do that very quickly.
No, it's okay. I can try.
Go for it. You got it.
Okay.
If she doesn't help her.
Just add a keyframe and then tilt it to the right.
Yeah.
Tilt it to the left. And then make it
Yeah. So what you can do whenever you have like this here, what you can do is you can create eye, and you can create a keyframe. Insert keyframe. Did I not do it right? Oh, I didn't select it.
Jack, what the hell is that?
should pop up.
Yeah. Why isn't it working?
That's the singularity.
That's so weird. What's going on?
The singularity.
Yeah.
You don't like
What?
This is proof in the
You don't like this.
Oh,
It's not Z fighting, it's a Z.
I figured it out. Yeah. So whenever you're in object mode, I can go ahead and be like, hey, I want it to take a snapshot of it at this location, this position, and this rotation. I like it here. But 5 seconds later, I want it rotated differently. I want it over here. I like it there. I can then hit I, and I can say, do location, position, and scale. And you can have fun with this. This takes, some practice if you want to get, fancy with it. But I could now hit play, and it would slowly move over. So that's how you do some basic animation stuff in there. It obviously gets a lot more complicated than just moving it around. Thank you. On my slides? Oh, you added it. Okay, I was about to say, I didn't think that. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. This is recorded, so don't worry. Hope you can hear it. But yeah, so this will be on there, basic Blender. Did you have a question? Oh, no. Okay, awesome. But yeah, so your home fun assignment will be to go to the random object generator. Hold on, I gotta figure out. Okay. Is to go to object prompt random generator. Generate a prompt, and then go ahead and try and make an object based on that prompt, and you can send it. It can be really simple. Just feel free to challenge yourself, but also just take the opportunity to really learn about Blender, learn about just 3D modeling in general, because it is pretty complex, and it does take quite a bit of learning to get a handle of. But just play with it, and if you want, make an object based on this prompt. I'll be also doing it, so by the end of the week, I'm going to put something in there. So by the end of the week, feel free to put it in the Discord. Tell us what prompt you gave yourself, and we'll all celebrate you and congratulate you on doing some awesome work. But yeah,
I told you.
feedback form.